Good morning, it's October 9th. This is To My Liberal Friends. Well, Democrats and liberals, especially politicians and media types, they love to find someone to champion they think people will agree with them on. We see it over and over, and at the same time, they keep getting it wrong. On the immigration issue, they decide that a questionable illegal immigrant from El Salvador would be their poster child against the Trump policies. Kimmell Garcia lived in the United States illegally and crossed the border in 2011. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details about Garcia, but suffice it to say, he had a checkered past and been accused of being a member of the famous MS-13 gang. Two different judges here in the United States found that accusation to be credible. He was arrested in Tennessee driving a van owned by a known immigration smuggler. He had no license, and the van was carrying 6 illegal immigrants with no luggage, no identification. He was ordered to be deported, but he claimed if he was sent back to El Salvador, he would be persecuted by MS-13's rival gang, Barrio 18. Now, why would Barrio 18 be after him if he was not a member of MS-13? He is currently being detained, and Democrats champion him over and over. You would think they'd have found an immigrant that was more likable, had no criminal record, and not beat his wife, etc., but this is their guy. And that brings us to the guy they're now championing and claiming that conservatives and Trump are silencing him for criticizing the administration. And I'm talking about the ABC late night show host, Jimmy Kimmel. Mr. Kimmel was suspended for a brief time by the network for lying about the politics of the alleged assassination of Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA. Kimmel either already knew or should have known that the accused politics was pretty left-wing, and that Kirk's views on transsexuals fomented him because he was in a romantic relationship with such a person. Well, liberals went crazy over the suspension of Kimmel. How dare anyone attempt to stifle free speech? I guess they either ignored or just had short-term memory failure about the news that Biden administration forced social media platforms to censor ideas that did not comport with their politics. And I've not heard one word from these liberals about the recent news that Jack Smith, the special prosecutor under the Biden administration, had the FBI spying on phone calls of Republican senators. I have to imagine they thought this was okay. But can you imagine the outrage and uproar that would happen if it was revealed that the current FBI was spying on Democratic senators? But going back to Kimmel, the liberal poster's child for free speech. Prior to his suspension, Kimmel was averaging a pathetic 1.7 million viewers. Put this in some context. Over the network that liberals love to hate, the Greg Gutfeld show was averaging 3.29 viewers. Now, before anyone jumps and says that Kimmel went back on the air, he got over 6 million viewers. That was expected because everyone wanted to see what he would say. And all they got was a mealy-mouthed apology that did not sound much like an apology. But guess what? That bump lasted about a nanosecond. Last week, according to Nielsen numbers, Kimmel was drawing 7,000 viewers, which is actually lower than his pre-suspension numbers. Now, if you need more context, then during the second quarter of this year, Stephen Colbert averaged 2.41 million viewers, which is more than Kimmel. And yet Colbert's ratings are still so bad and his show unprofitable, CBS canceled the late night show with Stephen Colbert. Over at NBC, Jimmy Fallon has driven the legendary Tonight Show off a cliff with only 1.18 million average total viewers during the second quarter. The real truth of the matter is that these late-night comedian/political pundits have gone hard left and viewers are tuning them out. They're no longer funny. And I'm old enough to remember Johnny Carson, and he was always funny and stayed out of politics. So did Jay Leno. When you delve into politics, either left or right, you run the risk of turning off half your potential audience. But that's been lost on the likes of Colbert, Kimmel, and Fallon. Somebody must have told them they can do and say whatever they want, and the networks have to keep them on the air and keep paying them. But reality's setting in, and networks are a business. They canceled Colbert at the end of next March. He had over 200 people working on the show, and it was costing CBS in losses about $50 million a year. So think about that for a moment. CBS is losing $50 million a year on Colbert with 2.4 million viewers. So how much do you think ABC is losing on Kimmel with 1.7 million viewers? The entire genre of these late night shows on the 3 major networks are losing propositions. People have way more alternatives and choices today. They want to find entertainment. We have the internet. Kimmel's contract is up this year, and if ABC Disney makes a business decision, he may find himself on the unemployment line with his buddy Colbert, and Fallon's probably not far behind. And if this happens, you can be sure the Democrats and liberals will scream censorship. They will defend these unfunny comedians because they're their own. But how many of you listening to this today would keep someone on what was on your payroll if it was losing your business money, and a lot of money? Would you keep paying them an exorbitant amount of money just so they could ramble on about their personal politics? I wouldn't, and I believe neither would you. But Democrats apparently would. Remember, this is the party that blew $1.8 billion in 15 weeks in a losing campaign, and the candidate now blames everyone but herself. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.